Next Time You See a Bee by Emily Morgan. Next time you see a bee, stop and watch it for a while. Stay still and follow it with your eyes. What colors do you see on its body? Can you see its wings? Can you find its eyes? Can you count its legs? Listen carefully. Is it making a sound? How would you describe the way the bee moves? What do you think it might be doing? Bees are some of the most important and fascinating insects on Earth. They can be found almost anywhere, from farms to deserts to cities to your own backyard. The daily activities of these tiny animals affect our lives in a big way. Have you ever wondered how such small, common insects can be so important? Pollination? Bees spend their days flying from flower to flower. As they dart among the blossoms, the insects unknowingly carry out the process of pollination. Pollination allows plants to produce fruit, seeds, and eventually more plants. The remarkable role bees play in pollination makes them vital to our planet. Bees have no idea how important they are to the plants they visit. The insects travel to flowers simply to gather their food. They eat nectar and pollen produced by the flowers, and they also feed these substances to their young. Nectar is a sweet liquid, and pollen is a sticky powder. If you look near the center of a flower, you can often see pollen. It is usually yellow, but can also be white, brown, pink, and many other colors. If you touch the pollen with your finger, you can feel the sticky grains. Pollen is an extraordinary substance. When the powder is moved from one flower to other flowers of the same kind during the process of pollination, it makes it possible for these flowers to produce fruit or seeds. Most plants need help moving their pollen from flower to flower. The wind can blow the pollen of certain plants to other flowers, but most flowering plants rely on animals like bees to transport their pollen. These animals are called pollinators. Over time, pollinators and flowers have developed a special relationship in which they depend on each other. Pollinators need flowers for food, and flowers need pollinators to spread their pollen. In addition to bees, several other kinds of animals pollinate plants, including butterflies, moths, wasps, flies, beetles, birds, and bats. But none of these are as prolific a pollinator as the bee. Bees' bodies are perfect for pollination. 2 large compound eyes and 3 simple eyes help the insects find flowers. 2 pair of wings allow them to fly and hover as they move from flower to flower. 6 legs help them perch on or grab hold of a flower. 2 antennae let them sense their surroundings. And one exceptional feature that makes them especially good pollinators is that the bodies of bees are covered with tiny feathery hairs. Pollen sticks to these hairs and travels with the bee from flower to flower. Some bees even have pollen baskets, small curved surfaces on their back legs where they can carry pollen. Bees pollinate many plants that then bear things we eat. Apples, tomatoes, lemons, limes, blueberries, cherries, almonds, pumpkins, watermelons, blackberries, pears, apricots, peaches, avocados, cucumbers, sunflower seeds. The list goes on and on. Next time you enjoy one of these foods, you can thank the bees. When most people think of bees, they think of an insect with black and yellow stripes that produce honey and live in hives. While honeybees fit this description, many other types of bees do not. Most bees do not make honey or live in hives, and bees come in a variety of colors, from red to blue to metallic green. There are more than 20,000 species of bees in the world. Some are as large as a quarter, and many are smaller than a grain of rice. Here is just a small sampling of the world's wide variety of bee species. What similarities and differences do you notice? The honeybees we are so familiar with today are not native to North America. Settlers from Europe brought them across the ocean on ships to make honey and beeswax. Most honeybees in North America are domesticated. That means beekeepers raise them in hives and have some control over where they go and what they pollinate. Large orchards and farms bring in truckloads of honeybee hives to make their crops produce as much fruit as possible. There are more than 4,000 species of wild bees in North America that pollinate right alongside honeybees. We call these native bees because they are a natural part of North America's ecosystems, and they have been pollinating plants here long before the honeybees arrived. Once you start looking for these insects, you will notice them more and more. You will see their beautiful colors and range of shapes and sizes. Most native bees nest alone rather than in colonies, so they are sometimes called solitary bees. You might see solitary bees flying around in and out of holes in a wall, in wood, or in the ground. These holes are where they lay their eggs. Some solitary bees make nests for their eggs using leaves or mud. The insects go back and forth between flowers and the nest, collecting and depositing pollen and nectar for their young to eat when they hatch. Honeybees are efficient pollinators, but they are unable to pollinate certain plants. Take, for example, the tomato plant. The pollen inside of a tomato flower does not simply fall off, as with many other flowers. Instead, the flower has to release the pollen. A bumblebee has a special trick to make this happen, a process called buzz pollination. The bee unhinges its wings, grabs onto the flower, and buzzes. Bzzz, and the vibration of the buzz causes the pollen to burst out of the flower. Isn't that amazing? If you want to observe bees, find a patch of flowers on a warm, sunny day. Search for bees flying quickly from bloom to bloom. Watch them land on the flowers and put their heads inside to get the nectar. Look closely to see if you can notice any pollen sticking to their bodies. Some people get nervous around bees because they are afraid of being stung, but most bees do not sting. While it's true that honeybees can sting, most wild bee species are reluctant to do so, and male bees don't even have stingers. If you give bees enough space, they will not bother you. Scientists have noticed that bee populations have been declining or going down in recent years. In some alarming instances, entire hives of honeybees have died suddenly. Scientists call this colony collapse disorder. Scientists think that it might result from a combination of factors: habitat loss, disease, poor nutrition, intensive farming, stress, and pesticides. These factors have put native bees in trouble as well. In 2017, the rusty-patched bumblebee was listed as endangered under the Endangered Species Act. This once abundant native bee is now on the brink of extinction. Bees are considered a keystone species, which means that their activity and populations influence a great number of living things in their ecosystems. The decline in bee populations does not just affect the plants that the bees pollinate, it also affects the animals that eat those plants and the animals that eat those animals, and so on. The decline in bees has a huge impact on humans because these insects pollinate so many of the plants we grow and eat. People are becoming more aware of the importance of bees and why we need to protect them. The good news is that anyone can help bees. You can make a huge difference for bees. No matter where you live, you can provide food for bees by planting bee-friendly flowers. Be sure to keep them pesticide-free. You can also provide nesting areas for native bees by using paper tubes to build a bee house where they can lay their eggs. So the next time you see a bee, Remember that as it zips from flower to find food, it is doing something quite extraordinary for those plants and for you. It is unknowingly making it possible for plants to produce fruits and seeds, many of which are foods you eat. It is sometimes hard to believe that something so small can be so important. But bees are key to keeping our planet and ourselves healthy and nourished. Isn't that remarkable?